Morning, everybody. We're running a webinar this morning just to introduce some new features that have come through on patch 9. These will be released on Friday evening. There's a couple of bug fixes, which are very minor, but the main thing to demonstrate this morning is the changes to the work on or near live sanctions, which some people do use. So this is relevant mainly if you're using that type of permits within your system, if those are switched on. And so what I wanted to do first was to show you the release notes that have been prepared. They're for patch 9 and they're available, as we can see here, within the support tab under frequently asked questions. We have the update to 3.13 patch 9, which relates to this particular release. That document looks like this here. I'll show you on screen. And it runs through the change to the sanction to work on or near live, and the two bug fixes, and that goes into the detail if you want to review those in that document. So the next thing to take you through is what happens on the work on or near live permits that's different. Historically, we had one workflow for whether the work is on or near the live electrical equipment. And we felt that it was better to separate those to distinguish between work that's on the live equipment and work that's near live equipment. There are two reasons for this, partly because the competencies required to work on live equipment may be different to the competencies required to work near live equipment. And also the equipment that's being worked on is not likely to be the equipment that is being worked near. So these needed to be differentiated in the workflow. So what I've done is I've set up 5 permits which we're going to work through that demonstrate the subtle differences in those two workflows. So I've logged on to our demonstration system as Howard Albury, and he's got some requests awaiting approval. And if I click on those, it will open the tree with those permits listed. So the first one isn't relevant to the demonstration. We're going to work backwards from 81 back to 76 to show you the subtle differences in the workflow. So Howard is obviously an authorized person. He's been alerted to the fact that a request has come through, and he's going to process each of these in turn. And the first one he's going to open is 1188. Click on the view button. And what he sees is a summary of the permit. The bit that we're going to focus on here is the permits and sanctions that the AP can add. Now, if you haven't got these all switched on your system, you won't have all of these options. If there are any here that you would like to have switched on, please do let us know. But what we're going to focus on here is when the AP recognizes that this piece of work, in this case, repairing the induction disk relays on the 15 kV switchgear, is going to involve work on or near live equipment. And clearly he needs to, he thinks he's going to require a sanction. Now, it's very clear here that this only relates to live LV. So what we'll find when we try to add a work on or near, when you're actually working on a high voltage equipment, when you click on that one and the pop-up opens up, what we find is that he can start to try and raise this sanction. He's saying he's going to work on this equipment. What it'll immediately tell him is that the access permit service is HV and you cannot work on that live. So what this is doing is protecting APs from incorrectly raising a work on or near live permit when actually the subject matter is HV, because clearly that is entirely inappropriate to work on HV live, and these permits should only be used on LV. So that prevents that happening. So that's really what we're just demonstrating there. So we'll abandon that one. Clearly that one can't be processed. Let's go back to the list of permits again, and we'll work on number 80 this time to demonstrate a different feature. This particular permit here is not working on HV, so we're not going to fall into the same blockage there. What we're doing here is installing and testing a distribution board, landlord 009, using this RAMS. So this installation of a distribution board for the new landlord services, and the distribution will be tested live on completion. So this is clearly going to involve work on live equipment. So the AP will try and append the additional permit type, and the FM company will be doing the authorizing of this permit. We can't change the company details or the competent person or the operatives, because it's the same team that are on the access permit that will be doing this work on the live equipment. And what we're now asked is a new question on this pop-up, which is what will be worked on or near? And we've got two questions, the service and whether you're working on it or near it. So the first thing you need to do is to say whether you're working on it or near it. In this case, we're working on this equipment when we're testing it. And because we're working on it, it's the service is pulled through from the access permit. We now need to stipulate what voltage is being operated, being worked on here. And in this case, it's likely to be something like 415 volts. And then we can submit that. When we try to submit it, obviously it does a competence check, as all of our permits do. And the people that were put onto the permit, the access permit, were Alan Gunn and Ben Cummings, and they are not, either of them, electricians. And what we have within the system is a specific requirement for working on live of at least 2 qualified electricians within the team. So this cannot be progressed because the people are not competent to work on this and test it at the end of the installation. So this would obviously prevent this from going ahead, and the team needs to be revised, or the type of work needs to be changed. So that shows you how that is prevented. The next one we're going to work on, going back to the list, is number 79. Let's have a look at what these guys are trying to do. In this particular case, this is involving repointing of a chimney, number 6, and it's located close to live overhead LV cables. So there isn't a problem with it being HV. They're not working on this equipment, they're working near it. So as the AP, I would want to raise a sanction to work near the live equipment. So when I trigger this one, here comes the pop-up. I select which company is going to authorize this particular work. The team has obviously been prescribed from the access permit. When I'm asked whether I'm working on or near it, in this case I'm working near it, and of course that means I'm not working on the fabric. I'm working near some overhead cables. So I'm offered only services that could be low voltage. There's no high voltage services in this list. And if I type in OV, it brings up the overhead temporary lighting service that's in this system. And in this case, it's likely to be 110 volts on that particular equipment. So in this case, when I submit it, I'm hoping this will go through, but of course it's done the competence check again, and Alan and Ben, neither of them are electricians, and to work near live equipment, we've set this up to require at least 1 qualified electrician in the team to supervise it. So in both these cases, we've not been able to proceed because the team lacks the competence to do the work safely. In the case of the working on the equipment, it required 2 electricians, and we set this up to require 1 electrician for working near the live LV. So again, we need to abandon that one. It can't proceed with live work near overhead cables. So the next permit we're going to process is number 77. And 77 and 76 will both go through, because what we've demonstrated so far is what the system is picking up on to stop work that shouldn't go ahead. The next 2 permits are demonstrating what should happen when people are competent and the equipment is not HV. So in this case, we've got the installation of additional distribution board as we had previously, but the team this time is Simon Olive with Frederick Emanuel working alongside him. So when I try and work on or near that live equipment, the AP is recognizing that they need this extra control. The company going to do the approval is the FM company. The team is already specified. I'm going to state that I need to work on this equipment because I'm going to be testing it at the end of the installation. So the service is the LV distribution board, which is the one that was selected on the access permit. The RAMS is already defined. I just need to state what voltage it is, and in this case it's likely to be 415 volts. And then when I go to submit this, because my team are competent, I can approve that one. Sorry, I can submit that one, and that is then ready for approval. The next one that I'm going to demonstrate is, again, one that is where the team is competent. We're going to have a look at number 76 this time. And with this one, when I go to add the sanction, this is work on the chimneys, which we know is going to be near the equipment rather than on the equipment. The FM company is going to approve it. When I'm asked whether it's on or near, it's near the overhead equipment. If I choose the overhead temporary lighting again and state that it's 110 volts, because my team is competent, I've got 2 electricians in there, I can submit that, and then that's been added to the bundle. Now what we're going to do with this one is to approve it. So I'm going to approve, first of all, the access permit. And approve that. It's got a second permit in the bundle there. And when I go to view that one for approving, I can change the safety precautions if I wish. Put in the password for Howard. Approve the permit. And then I've got an approved bundle. So within my approved permits bundle, on my tray here, I've now got those 2 that have been approved. I'll go down to the bottom, and we need to progress those through to printed. So if I have a look at this pair that have reached that status, if I let's have a look at the work on the near one, which is the important one to look at. When I go to generate this permit, it will bring up a PDF. Which will happen shortly. Down here I've got the work on the live permit. And once that's opened, what we see is a couple of things that have changed on the actual printed document. We can now distinguish between working near live and working on live. So if I printed the other one, it would have said on the live equipment. This one is a sanction to work near live equipment. So it doesn't combine the 2 into one document anymore. What we've also got down here is working near live overhead temporary lighting. So it's differentiating all the way through this permit as to which what wording is appropriate. So that's really it. There's not a lot to this new functionality. It's important because this is such a high risk area and needs to be controlled correctly and safely. And we felt that the documents needed to be separated in terms of the competencies and the documentation themselves. So if there are any questions, please feel free to raise any questions. If not, that's all that we need to show you today. If you want to go through the release notes, remember they're available within the support system, and that Word document will cover not only what I've shown you today, but just a little bit of detail about the other 2 bugs that have been fixed as well. So if there are no questions, thanks very much for your attendance, and we'll speak soon at the next webinar. Thanks very much.